we're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it.
President Trump yesterday with Benjamin Netanyahu and reporters talking about the high-level talks now expected with Iran. Of course, the president told me last month he had sent a letter to the Ayatollah Khomeini. The country's foreign minister confirmed the negotiations on X, saying that they will happen on Saturday in Oman. Reuters is reporting Iranian-backed militias in Iraq are prepared to disarm to avoid escalating a conflict with the Trump administration. Joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst. He is chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Jack Keane. General, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being here. What's your reaction and your expectations ahead of these talks on Saturday?
Well, first of all, obviously, Iran made a major concession here. They wanted to do indirect talks to a third party, and certainly they welcome that because that gives them the opportunity to stall and delay and at the same time continue to develop their nuclear program. So the direct talks taking place, I think we'll get to an obvious answer in terms of Iran's seriousness here much quicker, and that's what the Trump administration favors. I think we all have to take a dose of skepticism here about Iran's sincerity in dismantling voluntarily their program. They want a nuclear program to preserve their regime. That's the reality of what they're facing, and I think they'll do everything they can to delay this and also at the same time to continue development of their program. What has to be in the deal is voluntarily dismantling all of the nuclear material, the deep buried sites themselves, and the missiles to deliver them. And we have to do it by a date certain and also anywhere, anytime inspections by independent inspectors. This is something the Iranians, Maria, have always denied UN inspectors, etc., from doing. And unless that is available, then I don't see how we could possibly have a deal. Why? Because the history of Iran is they will lie and cheat. And we have to have verification here that this program is being dismantled.
Well, I mean, it feels like this is finally coming to a head as the president continues to repeat the Iranians cannot have a nuclear weapon. Would you expect, if in fact this does not play out that way, that the Israelis would move to destroy any buildup of nuclear weapons?
Yeah, I think there's an agreement between the United States and Israel that if this deal falls through, and I believe Prime Minister Netanyahu believes that it's highly likely that Iran will not voluntarily dismantle their complete program, that it'll be an Israeli-led, U.S.-supported strike against the target. It is a challenging target, Maria. It's in excess of 12 different sites. Some of them are deeply buried, 250 feet in the ground with 3-foot walls. And the United States has the capability to penetrate that target. The Israelis do not. That's why the United States would likely have to participate in the strike with the Israelis to achieve some measure of success. I don't think we could destroy the entire program, but we can certainly delay it a number of years and set the Iranians back rather considerably. They are in a very weakened state right now economically, and certainly they are relatively defenseless. They have lost their major weapon, Hezbollah. Hamas has been decapitated, and their strategic platform, Syria, has gone away. They have never been in this kind of a weakened position. So, yes, they are very vulnerable. If we have to conduct the strike, it will further weaken the support that Iran has among the elites in their society to see their country in such a deplorable, decapitated state.
Unbelievable. And, of course, the president told me about the letter that he sent the Ayatollah last month, opening up these talks. And here we have the news that it is, in fact, materializing. It came up a bit yesterday when the president met with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at the White House. The president doubled down on his plans for the Gaza Strip as well. Watch this.
Well, you know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something that we would be involved in. But having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip, would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems.
Meanwhile, General, I want to get your take on that, as well as the Panama Canal, because U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has arrived in Panama for a security conference with defense leaders from Central America. President Trump is still pushing to take control of the Panama Canal back from China. And Hong Kong-based company CK Hutchison's plan to sell 43 ports to BlackRock, and that BlackRock-led investment group include 2 of those ports near the Panama Canal. It's now in doubt. Panama's top auditor is accusing the company of owing $300 million in dues. So now they're coming up with whatever they can to try to get in the way of any deal between BlackRock and CK Hutchison, General.
Yeah, well, certainly China doesn't want this deal to go forward for obvious reasons. I mean, what would happen here if conflict broke out in the Indo-Pacific region, the fact that China has control over the ports on both sides of the Panama Canal is a considerable strategic asset for them. So, yes, they're doing everything they can to throw obstacles in the way. I suspect strongly, though, that we're going to continue to see this thing go forward. The President of the United States and his national security team is steadfast about this. So I see eventually progress being made in that direction for the Chinese company to give up control of the ports at the entry point to the Panama Canal.
General, there's a report out of NBC News this morning that the Pentagon is considering a proposal to cut as many as 10,000 troops from Eastern Europe. The units under consideration are part of the 20,000 personnel that the Biden administration had placed there, deployed those troops back in 2022 to strengthen the defenses of countries bordering Ukraine. And now the Pentagon's going to pull that back, a proposal to withdraw as many as 10,000 troops. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, the good news that's happening in Europe is the European allies, NATO itself, all of them, for the most part, are dramatically increasing their defense budgets and their capabilities. They recognize full well the threat from Russia and their desire to expand into Eastern Europe. And the President of the United States has put significant pressure on them to do that, but they recognize it themselves. The Secretary General of the UN has said as much. He's looking at 3% in terms of defense capabilities. And obviously, if the Europeans are stepping up and building their defense capabilities, then we don't need as many troops in Europe as we currently have. Yeah. That's the reality, and that's what's on the review. And we'll see what comes of that. I think those discussions will not just be unilateral. They will be taken in the context of NATO itself. Obviously, the supreme commander of NATO is an American general, and those discussions, I think, will be ongoing. And I think it's appropriate to review these deployments from time to time to make certain the fit is right. They were put in there because of the crisis that took place in Ukraine. And if we're actually going to move towards some kind of a peace agreement, then obviously the threat goes down.
Yeah,
There's a lot of work to be done on a ceasefire arrangement, though, in Ukraine based on Russia's behavior. Right now, they're stalling.
Yeah, understood. General, great to see you, sir. Thank you.